Okay, hello guys. Dr. Limkan Mate here in the studio with Dr. Arikana Chihombori-Quao, the former ambassador, AU ambassador to the United States. She's the president of the African Development Diasporan Institute. And also, she's a medical doctor by profession. So, welcome to the studio, Doc.
Thank you, Doc, for having me.
It's good having you here as someone who has worked for the African Union, and not only for the African Union, he has been in the United States, one of the powerful countries in the world, which was a center power, one center power. It used to be, they call it a unipolarity. I mean, it used to control the...
Still does.
Yeah, it still does. It still does. But of course, now we have got China, we have got EU, we have got India. That's a multipolarity. So the topic today that I want us to talk about is how is the emerging multipolarity from the so-called unipolarity, we can say, disadvantaging Africa. So that's what we want to talk about, looking at how these superpowers control the African economy, they've got local proxies in which they, for example, the DRC, there's a lot of things that's happening. So my first question is, African countries are very rich countries. They've got minerals, but they remain poor. Why does this paradox continue in the multipolar world, given that the US is no longer the only one that is controlling?
Let me start by educating our listeners and our viewers about the issue of multipolarity. I think in order for our viewers to really benefit from the conversation we're getting ready to engage in, allow me to just take a couple of minutes to give an overview of unipolar, bipolar, and multipolar worlds. I think that if you look at the world after the Second World War, it was a bipolar world. Prior to the Second World War, it was a multipolar world where we had spheres of influence. We had Europe, we had Soviet Union, we had United States, and then after the Second World War, Europe imploded, and Europe needed to be rescued, and that's where the US came up with the Marshall Plan, which supposedly the US gave 13 billion to Europe to rescue them, and that's when Europe lost its position as a whole in terms of the multipolar world that existed prior to the Second World War, which left the Soviet Union and the United States. We were now in a bipolar world. And that went on until 30 years ago when the Cold War ended, when the Soviet Union just became Russia, and that left the United States as a unipolar world. And the United States, the parameters, the indices for deciding who is the superpower, based on economics, based on military might, as of now, I think that the United States remains supreme when it comes to the indices that are used to measure unipolarity versus bipolarity. China is, however, rising. And some would like to argue, some scholars would like to argue, that we're now in a bipolar world, where now the United States is no longer alone. We're now being joined by China. China's not quite there yet, but it's on its way to being on at the same level.
What about Russia? Russia is not,
no, Russia
not
is
in the question.
Very far from it. It was as Soviet Union, but not as Russia. When you look at its GDP, when you look at its military, it's nowhere near the United States or China. And so that's a quick synopsis of where we are. So we're looking at a current situation of a bipolar world. We have two poles, which is China and the United States. However, there is another group that's rising up. Groups that have been complaining about the institutions that fall within the unipolar world. We're talking about the IMF, World Bank, organizations, how their policies have really been skewed against developing countries, of course, majority being Africans. When you look at the reasons why these institutions were created after the Second World War, was to help Europe recover, What people do not tell you was that $13 billion from the United States is not going to rebuild Europe. But what they don't tell you is Europe was rebuilt by natural resources out of Africa.
Okay.
Plain and simple. But nobody talks about that. How do you rebuild a whole continent that is imploded with $13 billion from the United States? It's not practical. It doesn't even make any sense. So now, the rest of the world, when you look at the world and we break it up into the global south and the global east, the global west, the global south is sick and tired of being sick and tired. So now the global west is waking up. And they're like, no. This world order that we have, the rules are based on their rules. They make the rules and they enforce them. This rules-based order is not working. And the entities, the institutions that were created post-Second World War were not designed to benefit the rest of the world. You can't have 5 nations at the UN Security Council making decisions for the rest of the world. One of those countries can veto any decision. And so clearly the system that we have today is not working. So the global south is rising, and that's why we now have the emergence of the BRICS. Is BRICS anywhere near to becoming the third power? For us to go back to the multipolar world, we need at least three poles. So at this point, we have the US with China that's coming really close, and the BRICS nations a distant third. And it's going to take a while before the BRICS. The
BRICS nations is South Africa, India, and Russia. Are you saying that South Africa is getting into the game?
It is in the game. It is part of the founding states for the BRICS. And of course, many others have joined: Ethiopia, Egypt, UAE. And so the BRICS are another way of the world saying, that's it. This system is not working. This system is not for us. And we need the new world order that is more responsive to the needs of the world. What we have right now clearly is not working, and something else is needed.
But are we not looking at a scramble for Africa in terms of that this system are designed to empower those countries which are forming up the so-called multipolar world,
precisely,
and exploiting Africa. And
in fact, you can look at it both ways and say the systems were built to exploit Africa. Then you look at the pros of the multipolar world and the cons of the multipolar world. You might find that in a multipolar world, we might even find ourselves having more conflicts, having more exploitation, because now it becomes a scramble for Africa to say, gee, this world, we're getting ready to have other players. There's a middle pole, countries that are entering the middle pole, countries like Japan, India, they're becoming quite powerful as well. They're not quite there to become a super pole, but they are clearly a middle pole that's rising. So now there's going to be dog eat dog. May the best man win. So you can look at it from that point of view to say, as Africans, we really need to be careful. We need to watch this situation. But the question is that I really want to ask our audience to realize is to say, does the average African realize that we're getting ready to move into this multipolar world where it's going to be dog eat dog, may the best man win? Is Africa ready to defend itself? The truth of the matter is Africa is already being exploited. And if we don't manage how we enter this multipolar world, or even prepare
but can I hold you there? How do we enter the multipolar world? Already the so-called countries which are believed to be helping Africa to get into the convention are actually exploiting Africa. For example, I've heard a lot of complaints about China. China, they come and they exploit, they take more, then they leave a little for Africa. And look at IMF. Zambia is in a serious debt. They were, I don't know if they are still in the serious debt when they got that debt. So Africa, a lot of countries, they owe the so-called countries like China. They owe the so-called countries like Russia, which are said to be the true friends of Africa, because they're trying to run away from the unipolar, from the US. They're saying US is not a good friend. But the so-called new friends are also exploiting Africa. I don't know how you can explain that situation.
You want to know the answer? Look in the mirror. It's you, the African. Why are you allowing another man to come and piss all over you in your own country? Why are you allowing another man to come and take advantage of you with your eyes wide open? There's no excuse. We know how the game is played. And yet we allow them to come in and continue to exploit us. So no. If you want to know what is wrong with Africa, look in the mirror. There are things that are being done to the Africans that the leadership of Africa, the parliamentarians can vote and say, no. Look what they did in the Sahel. They said enough is enough. France, pack your bags and go. The citizens got involved.
Okay.
Are you with me? So what is being done to Africa is nothing new. It's nothing that we don't even know is happening. We know it's happening. We have the ability to stop it. The question is, Africa, why aren't you stopping it?
No, the question is, how does Africa stop it?
Okay, let's take for example. We need to focus on what we need to do as Africans.
Okay.
We need to focus on making sure that every African has food on their table. Every African has a home. Every African has clean water, electricity, good healthcare, good education. Those are the basics that the rest of the world no longer has to deal with. We need to address those first. We don't need anybody from outside to address that. And you know how we address it? Using our own natural resources, looking from inside. And I'm going to use the Sahel as an example. When Niger decided they were going to take over their minerals, one mineral, uranium, they were realizing 80 cents per kilo from the French companies that were mining the uranium. When they took over their uranium mines, they went from revenues of $1 billion a year from uranium to almost 300 billion a year, one mineral. Who needs aid? Who needs to worry about electricity? Who needs to worry about how we are going to pay for education and healthcare? So why do we still have too many African countries that are still giving away their natural resources? There are contracts that should have been cancelled a long time ago. You have multinationals that are still mining in Africa. They are not paying social protection.
Yeah, maybe the challenge is having good friends. Like, does Africa really trust? Do we trust ourselves as African countries? Like, for example, the African Union. Are we trading amongst ourselves?
Hold on. Yeah. You said you need good friends. Who is a good friend? That's part of our problem.
Yeah.
The countries that we think are friends, they're not good friends. Africa needs to look from within. Africa needs to make its own friends within Africa. Africa needs to start looking for Africans. The ways in which we are being exploited are pretty clear. There are known systems, ways that they continue. Why aren't we stopping them? We still welcome IMF to our countries, so they come and lie to us. We welcome World Bank. We attend the United Nations every year. For what? What is there for us? We got Zimbabwe that has just been accepted as...
Is it as Africa you were crying about the USA, saying that Trump destroyed it for Africa?
I think that was the best thing. That was the absolute best gift President Trump could have given to the Africans. Yeah, he didn't do it to benefit the Africans, but it was a side effect of his decision. He did it because that was his own way of saying America first.
Okay.
But along the way, it
became a blessing in disguise.
Absolutely blessing in disguise for the Africans, because all the atrocities committed in Africa, most of them were coming through USAID, through the funding. So those funds were coming through USAID, and those were the funds that were creating and funding instability and all kinds of problems within Africa. Let's make no mistake about it. USAID needed to get out of Africa.
So, which means these superpowers, when they are funding Africa, they somehow need the influence. They want to influence the economy.
Yes.
They have got conditions which they give that country, which they fund. So Africa is actually being exploited openly, willingly. Yes.
Africa is willingly being exploited because we can stop it.
Yeah.
They did it in the Sahel.
Okay.
So now you can't say we don't know. They did it in the Sahel successfully. So we have an example of how Africa just needs to stand up. I'm sorry, I'm going to use some words that I normally wouldn't use, but I'm going to use them because I want to take this message home. Africa, we need men with balls. We're going to stand up and defend us. Because what we're having right now, unless we can pick up what they're doing in the Sahel, they don't care being called dictators. What is a system if it cannot put food on the table for the citizens? We want a system that feeds the people.
Yeah. But you know that a lot of African countries are exporting raw materials and importing finished products.
Again, that they know. Why can't we manufacture our own chocolates out of West Africa and send the chocolates to Africa? Africans are going to Europe and they come with bags of chocolates from Switzerland, from wherever, when it's actually cocoa beans from West Africa. Why aren't we manufacturing the cocoa in Africa and shipping it all over Africa? Zimbabweans have to go to Europe to buy a chocolate bar with cocoa beans from West Africa. How ridiculous is that? Ghanaians themselves, they go to Europe to buy chocolates from their own cocoa beans. Coffee out of East Africa. There's not a single coffee plantation in Switzerland, and yet the World Trade Organization knows it, but they give it a blind eye. Because West Africa was supposed to create raw materials for Africa, all of Africa, really. So it's not a new game. It's an old game. The leaders know it. What we need is the willpower to come together.
The willpower,
speak
yes.
with one voice and say, the West, thanks, but no thanks.
The willpower. I like that you have said that the willpower. I think what we don't have is strong institutions. For example, the African Union, do you think it's doing its job?
No,
because
that's not even
because the citizens, they need a bloc, they need institutions which can arise and speak with one voice. But anyway, you find that the generality of African citizens no longer trust in their government.
They don't trust their government, they don't trust the African Union, which is a toothless bulldog. I don't even know why we need the African Union anymore. It's just such a useless entity.
But you have been the ambassador of the African Union.
That's why I know.
Yeah, but so in other words, you how can you say that the organization which you were part of is a toothless dog? Which means during your tenure as ambassador, you also did nothing. That's what you're trying to say.
Oh no, I did my part.
You did your part.
Oh, I did my part. And I spoke out. Yes, and that's why the French wanted me out. I did my part.
The French wanted you out.
Absolutely, yeah. There was the journalist who they used to spread lies about me.
Okay.
Just lately, 3-4 months ago, he was looking for me to apologize, and he spoke honestly to say I was used, because he later found out that he was given lies. An ambassador from the AU, can you believe it, called him with lies that was intentionally meant to destroy me. A phone call came from France saying, find dirt on
So what are you really known for in the AU? Like what?
For speaking out. About the French.
About the issue of the pact, colonial. Can you explain on that one?
Yes.
Can you explain that one?
Well, it was just really, it's one of those situations that I sit back and when I started speaking, I don't know how so many people were not aware of it. Many, including some in the US government.
Okay.
I was invited to talk to an adult class at Johns Hopkins, and those are all former US government employees, former CIA, and what have you. And I had started talking. They said, we want to hear what this ambassador is talking about.
Okay.
So I went to the class, and there were about 200 of them. And when I talked about the pact for the continuation of colonization, and when I was done, I still remember the first guy to ask a question. He said he was a former CIA and now retired. He was in the government for over 50 years. And he said, Ambassador, how come I didn't know this? And I said, yeah, you tell me. How come you didn't know this?
The pact for the continuation of colonization.
Yes, I said, take your phones right now, Google it. And I said it slowly. It pops right up. It's the truth.
So what does the pact for the colonization continuation? Yeah.
Oh, well, I'm going to highlight a few things that really got me to say, you know what, I have a platform and I'm here to educate the African diaspora so they can participate in building the Africa we want. They must know this information, that our African leaders, particularly the ones that former colonies of France, they were made to sign this document. Let me highlight a few things. The pact said also on the time that they were getting their independence, they were told, on one hand, you're getting your independence, but on the other hand, you have to sign this document agreeing to continue to be colonized. And if you don't sign it, there was a gun with their name on it. And so the pact said all your natural resources discovered and yet to be discovered, they belong to France. Yes. That you must deposit at that time initially 85% of your bank reserves with the French Central Bank.
French Central Bank.
And should you need some of that money, because you need the funds in your country, you have to submit an application to the French government as for a loan. And you can only access 20% of what you deposited the last year. What you deposited 10 years, the past 10 years, it's gone. It's never going to come back. And if approved, you can only access 20% as a loan at commercial interest rate, your own money. They also said all your military could only be trained by France. All your military equipment can only be bought from France with French permission. You have to submit a request to buy equipment.
They agreed to such terms.
They didn't have a choice. The two countries that refused initially, they destroyed France. France destroyed them. And the leaders were killed. And so that really got a lot of leaders. If you look at Mali and Guinea, they refused to sign the document. And France went in and destroyed the two economies. They even poured concrete into sewage pipes.
Jesus.
They destroyed schools and hospitals and
Jesus.
to sing. According to President Mugabe, they even took the last teaspoon and the last chair. They thought, so they destroyed the
So this is for French colonies. What about the British colonies? They still controlled their economy, their land. They never left.
They've never left.
They influenced the crisis,
The
civil wars.
multinationals are still here.
Like in DRC. Yeah.
They're still here. They're siphoning billions, if not trillions, out of African countries every year. The multinationals have never left. That's why we are now in the neo-colonization. The monster just changed his clothes. Yeah, so nothing has really changed. But what saddens me is African leadership knows it. So what is keeping us from uniting? Maybe not as a continent, but as SADC.
Yes.
Why do we still need visas to travel in Africa? Why is it taking so long to implement the African passport? The AFCFTA, which is huge improvement, big accomplishment, but if we don't have free movement of people, implementation is going to be a challenge. If we don't have united Africa, implementation is going to be a problem. Why are we still struggling with a single currency, single monetary policy, single military? Basics that you need if you're going to be a sovereign continent. We know what needs to be done. You know how educated we are.
Yes.
We've written papers about what needs to be done, but why are we not doing it?
I think we don't own our economy. We don't own the fact that we import finished products, then export raw materials, which means we don't own our countries.
We also know that we need to own our countries.
Yeah, we need to own our countries.
Why are we doing it?
So if given a chance that you become the AU chairperson, since you are laughing at those who are into power, given a chance that we give you the power to help Africa. How can you help Africa?
I feel sorry for anybody that becomes the AU chair. This system is designed to fail. You know, towards the end, I had lots of friends in the AU. They say, Ambassador, if you have an idea that you want killed, bring it to us in the AU. We'll kill it for you.
So, that's why ideas die there.
I'm telling you, the employees themselves were telling me that. I said, if you got an idea you want killed, bring it to us. We'll kill it for you. You know. So the AU itself is a joke.
Okay.
Why should we continue to be funded by Europe? As long as Europe is funding you, they own you. They dictate.
Yeah. He who feeds you owns you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I think as Africans, we have to be really realistic about what we're doing. We need to be serious about taking care of our people. There is no reason why Africans should be poor. There absolutely is no reason.
So in other words, you are actually submitting that the problem is not Europe, it's not, it's not China, it's not. The problem is within Africa.
I'm not giving them a free
because
pass.
if Africa cannot run their own AU, if the system is corrupt, if they cannot feed their own children, why are we blaming the outsiders? The problem is us.
No, we have a certain percentage of the blame,
Okay.
But they also have a certain percentage of it. Look at the frivolous loans that Africans have been burdened with. The average African country, over 50-60% of their GDP goes to loan repayment. Loans, a lot of times, that they had nothing to do with. Loans that go back to colonization. And then if you decide you don't want to pay that loan, all kinds of things are going to happen to your country. So it's really, and then our people now are also just brainwashed. It's easy for our people to blame our government and not take responsibility for what we could have done as citizens. And so we are quick to riot and demonstrate, but never take a moment to say, what can I do to contribute to the building of my nation?
Exactly.
Which is why I just find the Sahel nations so refreshing, particularly Burkina Faso.
Okay.
You know, the children are refusing to go on vacation during the holidays. They want to stay and build their country. There's a program called
the sudden change in Burkina Faso. I'm wondering at the sudden change, because it doesn't come easily.
It doesn't come easy, but the mind. Because the people realized, you know, I've gone around and talked to the young people in Burkina Faso. They say, Ambassador, we have seen more development in Burkina Faso in the past 3 years than we have seen in the past 30 years. So they know what a good leader looks like. When the constitution said Traore has to leave after 2 years because he took over during the coup, he was ready to step down. But it is the young people of Burkina Faso who went to the streets and said, no, we want our leader, he's not leaving.
So what do you say to the young people who are leading opposition parties, who, whenever they are in disagreement with their governments, they rush to the Washington D.C., you know, like in Uganda, this young man called Bob Wine, I saw him celebrating himself there in Washington, D.C. Nelson Chamisa and the BTs here in Zimbabwe, they run there calling for sanctions. Do you think they're wrong?
Yes, they are. There was a recording of Chamisa before the last year's elections where he was saying, well, after we win the elections, I'm going to go to Mr. Biden and I'm going to say, Mr. Biden, I've done my part, now you do yours. And you want to be a leader.
For Africa.
For a country. Really? You know, when asked, what are you planning to do for Zimbabwe if you win? His answer was, the Americans will help us. Really? So that's the kind of leadership we are having. The problem is, we need leadership who understands the history, not only of Zimbabwe, but the history of Africa. We want leaders who understand that leadership is about improving the quality of life for your people. Leaders who are not selfish. Look at, that is why I'll keep going back to Burkina Faso. If you look at President Traore, he owns hardly anything. Because he's for the people.
It's for the people.
The natural resources, that country, you have to visit it. It will just blow your mind away.
No, I need to go there.
You look at, he's putting money into farm equipment. No brand new cars for ministers.
Wow.
Yeah, farm equipment and mining equipment, construction equipment. The country, you just drive around, you see rows. Like if you're lucky, you can be on the highway, and they're just, miles of farm equipment or construction equipment. And you go to construction sites.
Yeah, you like the young man. You really praise him.
You see Burkinabe people building their country. They're like, you know what, we're going through a difficult time right now, but we see the end to it.
You must take me to Burkina Faso.
I will take you, yes. You know?
Yeah.
I think we need to be serious as civic
So I think it also speaks to our leaders that if they can start uniting our people, feeding their children, feeding the nation, building roads, I don't think they'll be having a problem with opposition parties, and even with young men going back to America.
I was in Qatar. Qatar, the Qatari people, it's only about 350,000. This country itself is about 3.6 million people. The majority are foreigners. The Qataris, they don't have elections every 4 years. They have a king who is making sure the Qataris are taken care of. As long as the Qataris have what they want, they're not going to complain. They're fine. You leaders, you can do whatever you want as long as you take care of us. I have what I need.
No complaints. No complaints.
So now, when you don't feed your people, and you don't take care of your people, and understand that people are simply asking for the basics. They want clean water. They want electricity. They want roads. They want food on their tables. They want to be able to go to the clinic when they're sick. They want to be able to put their children, send their children to school.
To school.
Basics.
Basics.
If leadership can just understand that that's what governance is about. It's about providing
simple
for
as that.
people. People want to see the development. We're not expecting the country to be built overnight, but let's see the development year in, year out. Because a country like Zimbabwe, this is a filthy rich country, mineral-wise. There is no reason why there should be anybody hungry.
Okay, so narrowing it, you have mentioned Zimbabwe. Recently, Zimbabwe, they rejected 367 million USD, which was given by the United States for health funding. I hear that the government rejected it, saying it compromises sovereignty and independence. What's your comment on that?
Well,
but remember, the people need good health. They need good hospitals.
No, you have to look and say, what was the money earmarked for?
Okay.
And what did Zimbabwe have to give up in order to receive that? It is my understanding some of it had to do with collection of data on black people.
Yeah.
Now, you know the story of black people going all the way back to Tuskegee, and even as late as the AIDS pandemic, where in South Africa they were injecting black people with AIDS virus. So our history has not been a good one in dealing with the West when it comes to our health. So I have to say that was a great move.
It was a great decision.
Because we cannot give up information about us. We have not been treated fairly when it came to healthcare. We can no longer allow our citizens to be guinea pigs. So that was a good move by the government.
It was a good move. And also Zimbabwe was officially elected to a non-permanent seat on the United Nations Security Council.
Yeah.
They are celebrating. I saw it everywhere. That at least Zimbabwe is now. So why are you laughing? Don't you think that is a good move? It's something that you should celebrate.
Okay, let them celebrate, but it's a useless move. It's like inviting you to the big room when it's all happening, and then they give you a little boy's chair and say, sit in a corner and shut up. You know, why are you even there? Africa needs a seat on the UN Security Council.
Okay.
A voting seat.
A voting seat.
Not a seat where you go in and sit in a corner.
Okay.
Not only in a corner, you're in a little kid's chair.
Okay.
That's the non-voting member.
That's the non-voting member.
You're just in the room and you're sitting quiet. Why are you there? So you can say, President.
Maybe that's one step forward.
No. You either do it or you don't. It's really that simple. Do you want to include Africa? Do you want to 1.4 billion people represented, yes or no? Stop kidding us. Africans should not even be going to the United Nations. All 54 countries.
But if Africa stops going to the United Nations, which means we won't be having the permission to be a nuclear power. We don't have nuclear. In Africa, we are just as useless as, if they want to kill us, they can kill us overnight. We can't defend ourselves.
Do you think going to the United Nations is going to give Africans permission to have a nuclear weapon? Tell me one thing, one outcome, every year, 1 year after the other, that Africans have to say, all these years we've been going to the United Nations, this is the outcome. Tell me one. None.
But I hear during the government of Zuma, at least South Africa nearly got the permission.
Nearly? Then what happened? Yeah, what happened?
Maybe they did not have the support, the African support to do so.
If the Africans all came together and said there's nothing in it for us, we're no longer attending, believe me, things will change. But because we cannot come together and speak with that strong voice, that's why we continue to be disrespected.
Nice one.
We are a joke around the world as Africans. An absolute joke. They know they can mess with us, they can pay us pennies, and we sell our grandchildren. So when it comes to that, we have to be very serious as Africans about what do we want. We are jokes in the global community. They make fun of us, they laugh at us, they think we're stupid, and we act it as well.
So it's just a decision, like even it comes to raw materials. If we as Africans decide to say we don't want to export materials anymore, raw materials. We want to export finished goods as Africa. If we decide as the continent to say, no, this is enough, we are going, I think we can be, because that's the powerful continent so far.
It's beginning to happen. Zimbabwe is doing it. They're asking for value addition to lithium.
Okay.
I'm hearing more and more countries are demanding value addition, but it's not happening at the grand scale that it should happen. Really what needed, it's almost quite infuriating when you think of what we are doing as Africans, what we are allowing ourselves to be done to us as Africans. Things that we can, at the stroke of a pen, can change overnight. Why aren't we doing it? You know, I used to talk to some of my friends who were staffers in Washington, and they will say, oh yeah, we know what we're doing to the Africans is not right, but you all don't complain. I was at a media summit, and one lady asked a question to say, why do you guys spread lies about Africa? And I still remember this was in South Africa. And this CNN journalist says, because you all don't complain. You let us do it and nobody complains. It's just that simple. We don't complain. But we like to say, well, they are saying this about us. They are saying this about us. Well, why aren't you saying this about yourself? What voice do you have to defend yourself? China has China Global Television Network. They have BBC in Europe. They have France 24. They have CNN in Washington. Where is the African News Network?
So that's the problem, Doc. That's the problem. So the first stage, I think, is Africa uniting, Africa making sure that they are not penetrated by the Western powers. Africa not selling each other. Africa supporting.
Africa is not penetrated. Africa is completely penetrated. It's been for centuries. So what are you talking about? First of all,
so how do we depenetrate? How do we make sure that we're not penetrated? And so that's where the challenge is.
This is
okay, that's a good case
study.
study.
How do you tell somebody, a bully, who's been bullying you, and they're getting fat and rich over bullying you, why are they going to stop bullying you unless you make them stop bullying you? And they're not going to go quietly. They're going to go kicking. Let's be realistic. They're not going to leave Africa easily. They want everything that is in Africa. Their sheer existence. It's my understanding not a single strategic planning session by major powers that does not start with Africa. Because everything and anything they need is and can be found in Africa. That's how powerful Africa is. And yet they make us feel that we need them when it's actually the other way around.
It's them who needs
they
us.
Need us.
Yeah.
And what will it take for Africans to understand that? That the West needs us, needs Africa. It's not the other way around. We've been lied to for far too long. And unfortunately, our young people are not...
They don't realize that.
They don't get it.
They don't get it.
But you know what? I blame us elders.
No, I think they are frustrated. The young people in Africa are frustrated.
Well, we didn't teach them. We didn't tell them.
They are frustrated. They are hungry. They don't have jobs. They are looking for jobs. So they are frustrated. And they celebrate going to Europe. They celebrate going there. So, so it's really an African problem.
And I can just see the way you're talking. You'll be an African leader. Oh, yeah. It's a real problem.
No. I'm actually acknowledging the problem because really I want to find a way of... I don't have powers to... But as you have been sitting as the AU ambassador, you came out from the AU complaining because you couldn't solve the problem. That's what I'm trying to show, that the young person in Africa, somewhere the ordinary young person, doesn't have power. So what do we do is, someone who be 30 years old, 40 years old, you don't own anything, and you are trying to find, it's more difficult. So they celebrate going to Europe, they celebrate going to UK, because they need to live.
And then they find out the grass is not greener either. And they get over there and they continue to be abused. And it's just sad. I was listening, Cambodia was chasing Africans out of Cambodia. I said, how bad do things have to get? Cambodia is kicking Africans out. So we have a problem, my son.
We have a problem.
We have a serious
Anyway, thank you so much, Doc, having you. I don't know if you've got any last words that you want to say to the audience.
To the audience, I can say we are at a crossroads. And going back to the reason for podcast today. The multipolar world that is being created. We're not in it yet, but we're moving towards a multipolar world. If Africa can understand that this is a very crucial time for Africa to really reevaluate where we are and recreate itself, this is the moment for change that Africa has needed. When the world itself is changing in major tidal waves. If we don't ride this wave of change that's coming, if we don't recognize this wave of this multipolar world and the shifting systems that are taking place in the world, we would have missed an opportunity to really recreate the Africa that was. The Africa that was the leader of the world. The Africa that educated and civilized the world. The Africa that was the envy of humanity. We have an opportunity to recreate that world. And this transition from unipolar and a quasi-bipolar world that we are in, and in due course, we shall soon emerge, or rather blend in with the new multipolar world that is in the making right now. This is the moment for Africa to realize the only way we can win as we transition into the multipolar world is for Africa to speak with one voice, for Africa to understand the importance of creating that meaningful unity of purpose. That means SADC must be a federation for starters, so we can begin to melt the borders, begin to trade with each other as the same people which we were. Let's start with regional blocks, and hopefully in due course we can begin to look at how we can talk about one Africa, one voice, one heart, one continent, one military, one single currency, and Africa with one, of course, we have the AFCFTA, one trade policy, but unity is what this moment is calling for. And if we miss this boat of uniting and speaking as one Africa, we are going to be subjecting ourselves to centuries, hundreds of centuries of continued exploitation and abuse and domination by other nations. Wake up, Africa. Rise. Africa, rise. The moment is now.
Thank you. Next time.
Thank you for having me, sir.
Thank you. Yeah.
Continue the good work.